Right. We should always be in a state of training, and we're not.
Right.
We're in a state of denial. That's what we're in a state of.
Wait a minute. I thought they had all that medallion training and all that goo-gobs and millions of dollars of money they were spending on medallion training. And then, of course, this perf training and perf consulting services, because they got enough money for consultants. Now, we're talking about the highest, in terms of budget, department in the city, probably next to the Department of Public Works in terms of the police department. And $20 million, I think, went toward overtime just last year. So there has to be some accountability where all this money is being sent.
Let me say this to you. And for one who really knows the inside politics of Baltimore City, and let me tell you, Bass has got one heck of a job ahead of him. Now, like I said, I'm not a fan. I'm not an enemy of Bats, but I will, speak the truth. And the truth is, when he came here,
right.
I mean, you got a lot of problems in this police department, a huge amount. You got discrimination, sexism, racism, corruption.
That's right.
And, you got nepotism. You got every type of ism.
Yes, sir.
And it's been going on for quite some time.
Right.
Now, the problem is we don't have the best people in the best positions. It's who's friends with who's buddy with who. Look, we had Neil Franklin as he was in charge of our education and training. He did an excellent job.
Yes, sir.
He spoke truth to power, and they got him up out of here.
Right.
There's been a lot of black commanders
that
they've gotten up out of here.
That's right.
We have enough people here that could do the job.
Yes.
The problem is we always bringing some expert or supposed to be expert from out of town.
Yes, sir.
That's going to come in here and wave some type of magic wand that's going to all of a sudden cure it. No.
Yes.
We didn't get like this overnight.
Right.
And it's going to take a while to fix this problem.
Yes, sir.
Now, the training aspect is what gets me.
Right.
And the culture.
That's right.
I think this commissioner, and if I was a betting man, to be honest with you, I would look at these moves as that he had to make these moves. He had to cut some people's throat because these people were, log blocking and stopping progress. And, but the only problem I think he's had is he hasn't had the proper time to train many of these commanders. And these people are going out in the streets right now.
That's right.
They're making life and death decisions.
That's right.
Now, they're many of my coworkers, so I see them. I know what they can and what they can't do.
Right.
So, that decision making is so important. I mean, one of the other biggest issues we have is there's no feedback. There's no feedback in the agency from your rank and file.
Right.
I mean, whether it's positive or negative.
Yes,
so
sir.
how do you know if something you're putting in place is working positive or working negative?
Yes,
so,
sir.
we've got to get to that level.
Right.
And the biggest issue I have is this. To have a successful police department,
yes, sir,
you have to have some type of career development program.
Yes.
If you don't have a career development program, you're just whistling in the dark.
Yes, sir.
Right.
Last point I wanted to ask you, of course, Sarge, is on the issue of retention of these officers. We're getting people coming through, getting Baltimore City training, right? And then they're going to work for the surrounding jurisdictions, and there should be something built into the FOP or the contract to say if you train here, you got to stay here and at least give us 2-3 years. I mean, damn, even the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, say, if we're going to train you, you're doing 2-3 years in our service before you bounce and go work elsewhere after we footed that training for you.
That's not far enough. As far as I'm concerned.
Yes, sir.
I believe that you should also live in this city for the first 4 or 5 years.
Say that again for those that's listening, man, and may act like they got Negro
It's sad when 99% of your command staff do not live in this city.
Yes, sir.
They do not live in this city. They live in Pennsylvania, Harford County, everywhere else.
Virginia, as we saw with the spokesperson.
If you're good enough to work here, you should be good enough to live here.
Yes, sir.
Especially with our citizens.
Right.
But
yes, sir. Let me come to Dr. Powers and get his thoughts on as we talk about this shakeup inside of the Baltimore City Police Department in terms of continuity and, of course, looking at the training of these officers right now, and again looking at the issue of these officers, 90% of them that do not live in the city of Baltimore.
Training is key. I mean, you can't possibly have a police department where you don't prioritize training and preparation. And training is more than just knowing the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Those things are important and significant, but you have to know the human terrain in which you work. There has to be a history class as part of because then you can actually serve and protect. See, policing used to mean serve and protect. Now we move to the word law enforcement, which simply means we're going to use force to make you follow the law.
That's right.
There's no principle of correcting your behavior. There's principle of then punishment. And then with that concept, you can use an insurgency force. That's why you've got people don't live here, don't have a vested interest. They become a mercenary force, and it becomes just a job to them. Unlike Lou Hobson and others who've invested time in the community, who we see out in the community, who we have lunch and dinner with, who are talking to children. They're invested in this community. Right. They want to make things right, serve and protect. If they have to arrest somebody, they're arresting them for the betterment of the community, not because they're the man. They don't have the John Wayne syndrome, as we talk about in training. So training becomes important and significant. You can't have a command staff that doesn't go to intensive training about how to lead others, because as a commander, your job is not just to discipline others, it's to take young people and mold their, not just their ability to navigate policing, but to mold their character into good people of integrity. And to have people here who do not spend any time in the city, do not live in the city, then you're talking about insurgents. You're talking about Blackwater USA, who went from here to Iraq, Afghanistan, countries in Africa. And we understand that. But see, again, we're going to have to demand that of our police department. Bats can be extremely intelligent. He may know exactly what to do, but he have not experienced anything like the politics of Baltimore. If we said to commissioners before, rent, don't buy. Because unless he gets the right people around him and say, this is how you navigate this. You better get yourself a Snowden and get some secret on some of these other people, so when they come in your office talking about doing something to them, you can say what they said in the Godfather movie. There ain't nothing you can do to me that I can't do to you. You've got to protect yourself politically. You've got to properly train the police officers coming up. You've got to select and train your command staff, and you've got to have an intimate relationship with the community in which you serve, and that's mean living and walking among them, not just talking to them and giving speeches, but understanding that we're in this together. We're on the same team. You can't be on the same team if 90% of your staff don't even live. That's an insurgency, mercenary force. That's Blackwater USA and Baltimore City. And you're right. You've got to have some kind of requirement that if we train you, you have to stay. They're recruiting. People graduate from the Baltimore City Police Academy, and they recruit them in the parking lot before they get to the car. They just got their badge pinned on them. They're walking to the car with their family, and before they get in their car, they got an Anne Arundel County Police Department uniform on. You've got to do something about that. Again, you don't need an executive order. You need somebody in the mayor's office who understand power. For not power to go to Las Vegas, not power to communicate and sit with other mayors and the power to say, even if I don't get reelected, give me one term. You may never reelect me. You may never invite me back, but you damn sure gonna know I'm here. Watch how in 4 years, what did we give it? 6, 7, 8 years? Then we extend it.
6 years, yes, sir.
Then we extend it to some coup d'etat that reminds us of Egypt. Then we extend our administration without the voters participating. Well, however time I'm here, when I leave here, this is going to be a different place. Once we get a mayor with that philosophy, that I'm not running for re-election, I'm running to change the condition and the circumstances of a people who have been harmed for too long, then we'll see changes.
That's right. Again, family, just tuning in. That was my brother and friend, Dr. Tyrone Powers. Sergeant Lou, before we begin to wrap up, got to ask your thoughts and comments, man, on, because you're out talking with the young people, you're talking with their family, talking to the citizens in the city, man. How do they feel with, again, this issue of just the crime and the violence and being overwhelmed from even, I think, the news media in terms of their responsibility. But there's so much hurt and pain in the city that have gone on for so long. It's been like neglect and then benign neglect. And as I saw in this paper the other day talking about the 900 block of Bennett Place, which is in Sandtown, Winchester, which was supposed to be the model for the rest of the nation in terms of redevelopment, the empowerment zone. But yet it's less empowered today than it was then. But everybody came in and got rich off of that black mammary gland called Sandtown, Winchester. Talk about the role that the spiritual community or the religious community has to have, because I believe that it's going to take more than the MIA, who's been MIA in terms of missing in action and taking money from the mayor and the Department of Justice now, and even Operation Safe Street, taking that money from City Hall. But it's going to take more than that. Talk about, again, as we begin to wrap up, how it has to be a holistic approach to, again, not just solving crime, but giving our people justice in this city.
You know, there's enough blame and shame to go around for everybody.
No, I don't think it's enough, bro.
Everybody.
Looking at what they've allowed to happen over the past 11 years after you offered them a plan, man, and they reject you and keep bringing in all these neophytes and consultants, then it's not enough blame to me and shame to go around. And as the Most Elijah Muhammad says, sometimes you can't reach them until you shame them. And so if they have no shame, we got to keep shaming them until they accept that full blame and responsibility. Because when it happens in the white community, they'll come out and say, we accept responsibility. We apologize. I've yet to hear that come out of the mayor's mouth, police commissioner's mouth, and other elected officials' mouths to the citizens in Baltimore. They ought to be apologizing to the citizens in Sandtown after all that's been allowed to happen in Sandtown, from homes being taken, from illegal foreclosures, water bills, and everything else. And that was supposed to be the motto. If that's the motto, give me the worst if that's supposed to be the best in this city right now. But thoughts and comments, man, as we begin to wrap up about the holistic approach.
One of the things is for that retention of these officers coming in, first, we got to pay these officers correctly. We're not paying officers correctly. And because we're not paying them correctly, we're paying good gobs of amounts of monies in overtime. Overtime up to the tail. Pay them a decent salary, then you can demand more. But, I mean, just like anything else, if I'm a young officer coming in, I just got training. And I can work here in Baltimore City where the workload is like twice as great as another agency. And you're talking about, look, I can get almost $30,000 more working in Baltimore County or any other jurisdiction.
Right.
Quite naturally, I'm going to go there and get a take-home car, be treated a whole lot better by my command staff, and get training and everything else.
Yes, sir.
So, we've got to offer more, but we've also got to treat our officers that are here correctly. We've got to pay them.
Yes, sir.
We've got to train the people that we need to be trained. It starts with the commissioner.
Right.
I understand the commissioner's got a lot on his plate. But you know what? You asked for this job.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And you said you can do the job.
Well-paid job.
Exactly. But the big key is this. We have too many commanders with all the perks.
Right.
They don't want to do the work.
Don't want to do the work. Yes, sir.
And see, those commanders, I'm going to say this again and again and again, they've got to be trained.
Yes, sir.
They've got to be trained, and we've got to stop this on-the-job type of training.
Yes, sir. Okay.
That's one of the biggest issues.
Is there a phone number quickly where brothers and sisters can reach you?
I'll put it to you this way. Everybody know me.
Yes, sir.
You'll see me in the streets.
All right. Thank you, brother. Let me come to Dr. Powers, get some closing comments on this holistic approach and your contact information.
I just think we need to revisit the People's Plan to dramatically reduce crime. I'll make sure you get a copy done. It needs to be updated, obviously. And you can always reach me at BroPowers, BROPOWERS, at AOL.com, or at my college email address, tpowers@aacc.edu. And again, people just have to get involved, continue to support the state of the city and what you do here to get information out, because you help people to follow the money. Like I said, we can follow the drugs and get arrested. We can follow the money and change the system.
Yes, sir.
So thank you again for having us on and the opportunity to talk to you and the people.
Yes, sir. All right. Again, family, just tuning in. Just concluded our conversation with my brothers, Dr. Tyrone Powers and Sergeant Lou Hobson. Of course, we'll be back here tomorrow, but send those donations. Do a righteous drive-by. Drop it off the Terra Cafe, 25th and St. Paul. We need your support so that we can continue to come longer and stronger on the state of the city. Stay tuned. Coming after me this afternoon, I believe, is my brother, Carlton Douglas, with the Carlton Douglas Show. So keep it locked and clock here on Soul Classic, 1590 WFBR. And don't forget this afternoon, 5 o'clock, Councilman Carl Stokes, Budget and Taxation. If we talking about following the money, connecting the dots, and revealing the plots, well, here's your opportunity to say to Harbor East, we want you to look out for those that's living in Harbor Lease and give us some of that yeast, meaning some of that bread that they cooking over there at H&S Bakery, so that we can live, not the way that some of them are living in terms of high off the hog, but we just want a little bit more and a little bit more of what's ours in the city of B-More. So until tomorrow, 12 noon, be safe. It's going to be hazy, hot, and humid again today, and hazardous if we're living in Baltimore City. So until tomorrow, 12 noon, we'll podcast the show on Twitter, on Facebook, and to get a copy of the show, call me 410-878-5298. Until tomorrow, 12 noon, I thank my guest, Dr. Tyrone Powers and Sergeant Lou Hobson. Stay tuned. Carlton Douglas coming up after me. Carlton Douglas, of course, better get you some insurance, assurance, and reassurance in the city of Baltimore. We up out of here. Peace.